We are live.
All right, welcome back this week. Another great topic, especially since the holidays are nearing and you might be thinking about it's time to buy a dog or get a dog or whatever it may be. So we're talking about choosing the perfect dog for your family and how to go about doing that. Getting a dog and choosing a dog, a dog in general is a major responsibility. And so a lot of times we may buy dogs because of cuteness on impulse and stuff like that. But there's a few things that we could think about before we get the dog that, will help us choose a dog that's best for our family. So when you went to get Archie, did you do some things before? How did you know Archie was the breed of dog you wanted? Like, what was your thought process when you started to go into like thinking about, what should we get?
We did a lot of research. So initially we wanted Chocolate Lab. And so
Mm-hmm.
we did research on the Chocolate Labs. And then I think by some stroke of like luck, by coming across something on social or whatnot, we discovered
Mm-hmm.
the Sheepadoodles, really fell in love with them. Researched the
Mm-hmm.
temperament of both dogs and knew that we wanted to start a family soon.
Yep.
The Doodles in general, really great temperament, especially with kids, really
Yes.
friendly, really bouncy. And so
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing wrong with the Chocolate Lab. Wonderful dog, beautiful dog.
Yep.
But the Sheepadoodles, we kind of just fell in love with them. And then we started to do our research on breeder. And then we narrowed that down and found
Mhm.
one that was very reputable, really good
Yep.
background as far as what they used to do before they bred. And then they were very transparent. They had a Facebook group. They had their website was really up to par.
Yep.
You could see the puppies' litters coming through. You could see their
Oh,
facility
nice.
really
Yep.
easily. Like they were posting videos all the time. And there's a wait list, and there's a like I think a wait list and a solid deposit that you put down.
Oh,
And
yeah. We'll talk about that. Yep.
a lot of, but that's I don't. If there's a strong wait list and there's a solid deposit, and then that means that
Mhm.
people are willing to pay for that breeder. Uh,
Exactly.
those are all what you might be if you can't be really risk or you can't. We will talk about payment, but you have to be like willing to spend
Mhm.
because that's going to be your life with your dog too. um, and
Yeah.
so just all those things. So we look for all those green flags, and then
Mhm.
um, just long story short, went in. You can't actually pick your puppy there. They will. You narrow it down. You go visit at the 4 week mark, and then you tell the breeder your top two or three out of the litter type of
Yep.
thing, and then they do personality tests with
I
them,
love that.
and then they pair it
Yep.
up. You tell them what your situation is. So we told them exactly two
Oh, I
professionals
love it.
living
Yep.
together, hoping to start a family a couple years at that time, and here's what we're looking for: first time dog ownership,
Mhm.
puppy stage. And so they just did the test, and then they're like, "This is your puppy." And then we went at the 8 week mark to
Mhm.
meet Archie in person.
Yep.
We had already met him; we knew who he was. And
Mhm.
I will say, definitely, if you can meet them before you choose them
That's
to meet
ideal.
you, it's nice because like when we saw the litter, we had one
Mhm.
dog in mind, and then when we left that 4 week meetup, I
Exactly.
switched into Archie actually being the one that we had hoped for. So it all worked
Yep.
out. So yeah.
Exactly. And so one of the common themes I hear Scott saying is he did his research the breeder, research the dog, research his family's needs as it pertains to dogs. So there's going to be a lot amount of research that you're going to want to do before you even think about getting a dog. And it sounds like Scott, you did a lot of it. I
Yeah.
mean, and myself as a trainer, I talked about so rule number one, let's just go through the first one. So
Mhm.
you don't want to adopt or buy on impulse. So what that means is when you're scrolling through the internet or see a cute dog, you don't want to be like, oh my gosh, I want that dog because it's cute. There's so many different considerations that you want to take into there's so many things you want to take into consideration when getting a dog. And so the first one being is cost. I think that's the first and foremost because these dogs are going to need things. And so what I tell my clients and people who call me, wanting to get a dog is, think about the cost. Like dogs, things happen. The first year they have all the shots, all the vaccines and stuff. So that stuff adds up. Are you going to get health insurance? So you want to think of your family's financial stance, where they are financially, in which you can afford to pay for a dog if they get sick. And you want to take that into consideration first and foremost, like as to whether a dog is even the right thing to get at this time in your life. Not saying you can't get it in the future, but maybe right now is not the time. So try to avoid buying on impulse and just taking your time and doing the research. And essentially, I'm trying to think when I got Francesca. So just Francesca, look at me, you're smiling like a proud mom. So when I got Francesca, I did do my research, but ideally I do train a lot of French bulldogs, and I love their temperament. I love their personality. I do know a lot about them. And so I knew that the dog would be ideal for my family. So even as a trainer, we still have to go through the same process. We're still human. But
that goes back to your like experience with dogs too, right? So
yep.
I mean, there's that factor, and then like
Oh,
what other
true. Yes.
should people consider when they're thinking about what type of dog to get, like experience with dogs, and what things would you say they should lean into or look at when they're
Yep. So yeah, we'll go through that, but so definitely your experiences with your dog. Like if you had German Shepherds all your life, then you may want to get a German Shepherd. Or if you're first time dog owner, like Scott said, then you may want to breed that's more lax. But if you had dogs in the past, then you may want to go with that breed. But one thing I do hear when I get to clients' home is like, I had several, for instance, French bulldogs in the past. None of them was like this. Dogs are no different than people. They all have their different personality. You can't expect for the dog that you're going to get to be similar to the dog you had in the past, or to replace a dog that may have passed. Every dog is different, so just keep that in mind. But of course, if you had a dog in prior years or as a child, then you would have that experience with like raising dogs and stuff like that. But another thing to keep in mind too, because I do hear a lot about that. I had a dog when I was 5, but not as an adult. That's very different because your parents are taking care of that responsibility. So keep that in mind as well. Right. All right. And so another thing, like Scott was saying, and I truly agree with, make sure, start with the right breed or the right mixer breed, making sure it's the right and puppy for your environment, family, and lifestyle. And of course, you take it into experience with dogs. And so when it comes down to environment, that's like the biggest one too. Another big factor, because a lot of times, you say you get a husky. Huskies need a tremendous amount of exercise, but if you have them in an apartment, that's not going to work out. Not saying it's not going to work out, but you have to make sure you know the breed, what they require. So if you know that huskies require a lot of exercise and you do have an apartment, just know that you may have to sign them up for doggy daycare, may have to hire a dog walker to meet your dog's needs. So I'm not saying that you can't have the dog that you want, just make sure you meet that dog's breed requirements when it comes down to environment. So for instance, if you have an apartment, you may want to get a smaller dog breed just so it's not taking up as much space. If you have a big yard, you can get a larger dog breed or a dog that likes to exercise a lot because you have that space in. But again, I'm not saying you can't have that dog, just taking, consideration of the exercise or the environment.
Work in if you are going to get like that dog that needs more exercise, or let's say a bigger dog in a smaller space, you have to be willing to go out 4 or 5 times a day for walks.
Exactly.
Right? You have to weigh it
Yep.
out, I think, like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and be realistic about it too. I always, when I sit down with my clients and do like the training plans and stuff, and we're trying to figure out what each family member can do, or we'll talk about that next. So just the environment, we'll talk about that next. But yeah, let's go to the next one. So let's talk about family since I'm talking about it. So before you get a dog, you want to make sure each and every family member is on the same page as to getting a dog, and kind of figure out what everyone is going to do far as helping out with the dog. And with that being said, when you get a dog, everyone's all excited and stuff. Oh, I'll do this, do that, do that. But the reality is, when the dog gets into the home and that excitement periods wear off, some family members may not be into tune as to training a dog or taking a dog out. So parents, take this into consideration, because I've seen it so much when I go out to my clients' homes. Your children, your husband, your wife, or whoever's like leading up, calling the dog trainer. That if your kid doesn't, it's not like a person that does, exercise a lot or go on walks a lot, you wouldn't assign them to do the walks for the dog. But if you're telling me, oh, my kid loves playing with my dog, then assign your kid to do some play with your dog. So you want to try assigning your family members things that they will do, opposed to things that you want them to do. And also just making sure everyone's on the same page. Make sense? Yep. Yeah. All right. Also, take your lifestyle into consideration too. Do you have a lot of free time? Does your dog, like Scott said, require a lot of exercise? Are you working from home where you can take your dog out a lot? Are you working 12-hour shifts where you can't take your dog out? So that's a big one too, because a lot of times you'll get in a situation where your work, I had several clients who was like, oh my gosh, I got this dog and I was supposed to be working from home, but now my boss wants me to come in 4 times a week.
Yeah.
What do you do then? You know, you didn't plan for it, but all of a sudden now you have to make sure your dog's okay with being home alone. You have to, get a pet sitter, to hire doggy daycare. So you want to I always tell people, if you're going to get a dog, take the next year or two in consideration for thinking about what's going to change in your family's life and your work-life balance, and take that in consideration when you're getting a dog. And we already talked about experience that I have here on my list. What experience do you have with dogs? And taking that in consideration, what can you handle? And then evaluating costs. So if you're getting a dog from a breeder, of course, it's going to be a little bit more pricier than going to a rescue shelter, which can range from $300 to $500, maybe more. A breeder can range anywhere from, I've seen clients saying $1,000 to like $10,000. It just really varies on, what you're looking for. And like Scott said, when you go to a breeder, you get them as a puppy. Most breeders will breed for either temperament, they rule out any medical issues. So there really is a good foundation there. And of course, that's where all the costs come in at, but at least you know what you're getting. And usually the breeders will support you moving forward. Not saying the shelters won't. If you're getting a shelter, you just don't know what you're getting. Not saying it's wrong, but it's a little bit cheaper. So just think about your family's costs, think about what you can afford. And I will also encourage you to think about oh my gosh, I really want one dog and I'm just going to, again, the impulse buying. Don't just buy a dog on impulse. Say you want a dog that costs like $5,000. Don't just go for the cheaper dog because that's what's cute at the time or what's available. Save up and wait for something you want, because you want you to love the dog to love the home and be able to, have a good life moving forward. Yeah. So essentially, again, making sure the time's right. Also visiting the shelters too. You don't have to buy on impulse, just visiting the shelters. If you have friends that have dogs, spending more time with them and being intentional about it, talking to your friends and family, seeing what, how their dog breed is, just researching, learning, visiting, talking to people, talking to friends, and always talking to a trainer too. We're not just there to train your dog. I've had several people call me like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a dog. I'm trying to figure this out. What should I do? So you can call a trainer like myself or, reach out and schedule a time, and then we can discuss, those different things that come into play. If you're like, oh my God, she gave me all these tips, but I'm still not sure, I can help you with that, Yeah. So this is essentially how you can go about choosing the right dog for your family. And I hope you guys gained some good insight as to how to start that and go about it. Before we hop off, Scott, do you have anything to piggyback off of?
Everything we're telling you now, the dog is not for your puppy's not just for 1 year. More than likely, you're going to spend a decade plus with them. So, you invest your time now with researching and everything to make sure it's the right decision. And like Pam said, if you really want the $5,000 dog, save up. It'll be worth it in the long run because you got the dog you wanted, the temperament you wanted, and you invested. And now that decade to 15 years, whatever it may be, you enjoy it so much more. So, but also, if you're watching live, you have any comments or any questions about this, definitely drop them in the comments. If you're listening on the podcast, definitely great if you can hit that follow button, subscribe, review. Any reviews you guys can throw us. And if you're listening on the podcast, that'd be awesome. And if you're watching on the video, you can catch us on catch the whole catalog of lives on a podcast. We're on Shopify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google as well. A lot of places. So you just have to search for down for and you'll find the podcast in case you want to listen to them instead of having to always watch them and that sort of thing. They're all there for you. And a lot of times it's easier just to listen in on that sort of thing. So that's what we got for this week. Anything to wrap up now?
No, other than that, you guys enjoy the week, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week with another great topic. Bye.
Bye, everyone.